It's a very warm welcome back to Matchbook's weekend football podcast. The penultimate international break of the season is done with. I couldn't believe there's actually another one in November. Joined this morning live on Matchbook's YouTube and Twitter channels by Mr. Adrian Clarke. Adrian, you had your insights post up last week because obviously, life goes on in League One and League Two. One of the selections, Harrogate, -1. 5-0 up at half time. It's probably one of the easiest winners you ever had.
Yeah, I was shamelessly excited about that. Yeah, because I was working on a game at Sheffield Wednesday Bolton, and I saw the half time, and I was just absolutely buzzing. So yeah, it's not often that one of your picks on a handicap has such a handsome lead. So yeah, happy days on that one. Look, back against Scunthorpe at the moment, they are shocking.
It's good to know. Mark O'Haire, obviously we had a quiet week from you last week, but any quick takeaways from the international break and the anti-post markets for Qatar 2022 we need to be looking at?
You caught me on the hop there a bit, Sully. Denmark were the ones again. They were 100 to 1 a few months ago. That's long gone. 50s, I think, is the best you'll get at the moment. But I was actually watching that Harrogate Scunthorpe game on iPlayer because I was very pro Harrogate as well, and it was 5-0. It could have been 10-0. Scunthorpe were absolutely abysmal. So yeah, can only vouch for opposing them at the moment.
Trust you, Mark O'Haire, to find that game. Trust you to find that game on iPlayer, wherever you find them at. Only one guy will be able to do that, Adrian Clarke, let me tell you. All right, guys, what we're going to do today, we're going to cover 4 Premier League games. We're going to do Leicester City versus Manchester United, Brentford against Chelsea, Newcastle against Tottenham, and Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. Adrian has 2 EFL picks. Mark has 2 from Europe, and we're obviously going to do best bets as well. Let me just tell you guys about the sign-up offer that we currently have at Matchbook.com. I think we'll only have this for another couple of weeks because we have a new one coming in shortly. But let me tell you about this one. It's bet 10, get 15. And if you use the bonus code INSIGHTS15 when signing up at Matchbook.com, you'll be able to avail of this offer. Full terms and conditions can be found at insights.matchbook.com. You'll also find a bet recap there. But like I said, use the bonus code INSIGHTS15 when signing up to avail of this offer. It's a pretty good one, and in all honesty, you go on to Odds Checker Grid and look at the prices come 2:30 or 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. You'll see the Matchbook invariably is, if not the best price, joint best price. So you're getting the value there, and a bit of an added caveat when you sign up. All right, Leicester City versus Manchester United. Yeah, we've had a lot of opinions about Manchester United this season. You know what? We were right the last time, pre-international break, guys. That Everton plus 1.75. That was a knocking bet, absolutely knocking bet. And thanks to Fred as well for setting up that Everton goal. Very much appreciate it. Leicester City, you can back at 3.55. Manchester United 2.18. The draw available at 3.7. Leicester City getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap at 2.08. You can back United on this market at 1.86, and the goal line is a middling one at 2.75. Obviously, 2.5 is available as well at just under 1.8. And Mark O'Haire, that's the selection. You fancy goals at the King Power on Saturday?
Yeah, I do. This is a big one for both teams, really. Leicester haven't got going this season. I think even Brendan Rodgers admitted after the Crystal Palace game they've not been at their best so far this season, giving up a 2-0 lead in that game against Palace. Their only win in their last 6 was against Norwich. On the opening day, they beat Wolves, but they were second best and fortunate to get the points. They've only actually been superior in terms of NPXG twice. That was against Burnley and Brighton. And I've actually got them bottom 6 across almost all the metrics and in third bottom for expected points. And injury news hasn't been a help for Leicester this season, and they're coming into this game without Ndidi and Fofana. Evans' availability remains a bit of a mystery as well. So, if he is missing, that's 3 of probably their key leaders in terms of defensive organisation and ability. Without them, you've probably got Soyuncu and Vestergaard again at centre half, and that's obviously quite concerning against the Man United team who've got so much talent in forward areas. But for Leicester, I was quite pleased that Rodgers switched things up against Palace, went 4-4-2, Iheanacho up top alongside Vardy. It's what worked pretty well in the spring. It took a while for him to drop Maddison, who hasn't found his range so far this season. But he has got a tendency to be a little bit more pragmatic in the games against the big 4 or the bigger teams in the league. But I'm hoping he takes a front foot approach here against United, who haven't been fantastic themselves recently and could be without Maguire as well as Varane. We know Varane's definitely out. Maguire is still a major doubt as well. So if both of those are missing, there's an opportunity here for Leicester because United aren't playing well. They might be only might only be 2 points off Chelsea, I think, in the league table, but they've won twice in the last 6, 3 defeats across all competitions. And Solskjaer's looked exposed against some of the better coaches. We talked about it with Benitez. We talked about it with Dean Smith. Even Unai Emery outcoached him in the Champions League. They might have won the match, but they weren't very good in the game. And I think Rodgers has the capacity to mastermind something out of this match. But you have to respect United's road record, 30 unbeaten in the Premier League. Fantastic effort. So I thought the easiest solution, therefore, was to back goals. I think it may have gone a little bit under the radar with Leicester, but they've been pretty goal-laden for quite some time now. If you look at this season alone, 5 of 7 have gone over 2.5, 5 of 7 have seen both teams scoring. Those matches have averaged 2.98 XG per game. But go further back, they've kept just 3 clean sheets in 17. 17 of the last 22 have seen both teams score, and 17 of the last 22 have also seen over 2.5 goals backers collect. So pretty strong records there over quite a decent distance of matches going back to the end of last season. So I don't see them keeping a clean sheet if the current injury issues are still there. I also think United are vulnerable if Maguire and Varane are missing again. Leicester's last 12 at home, 9 of which have gone over 2.5 goals. The market is forecasting 2.8 goals. So I would back overs over 2.5 goals, so around 1.8.
Yeah, and it just pick up about kind of the Varane and Maguire axis there, because it's funny, because I always used to think about Maguire that he would always be better with a good centre half next to him, rather than him being the kind of main linchpin. And then we saw Varane without him the last couple of games too with Lindelof. He didn't look great without him too. So it's almost like, it's one of these relationships, they both need each other. And look, yeah. I mean, like Mark said, you've got to respect United's away record. There's no getting away from that. But like I said, there's definitely vulnerabilities there at the back.
Of course there is. Yeah, no, you can't trust Manchester United to win each week at the moment. Without the ball, not good enough. 1 clean sheet in the last 7 games, and Varane and Maguire have been partners for the majority of those matches, and they've still always managed to somehow concede a goal. So, yeah. And for Leicester, 1 clean sheet in the last 13 Premier League games. So it doesn't feel like a game where clean sheets are going to be kept. I absolutely would concur with the goals angle here. I saw Leicester in the flesh not long ago against Burnley, and Vestergaard and Soyuncu is a truly terrible partnership. It's just fraught with mishap, really. Vestergaard just turns like a bus, and Soyuncu just looks a bag of nerves. It looks like he's always got a bad back pass or something loose in his locker. Yeah, now they might come good because clearly they're 2 decent individual players, but as a combination, they've been awful so far. And look, with Ronaldo up against him, United sort of star-laden attack, I would fancy United to cause them quite a few problems in the game. But on the flip side, Vardy's in great nick, isn't he? Fantastic, making those trademark runs, finishing with aplomb, and for me, Iheanacho has to play every time he's involved. He seems to either score or assist. So yeah, I think this will be a good game, really good game. Look, both teams' to score market is quite skinny, I think, in terms of the price. So if you're looking for a bit more value, over 2.5 goals feels the way to go. I can't tell you who's going to win, but I do think there'll be goals. Yeah,
over 2.5 currently available at 1.8. Like AC said, both teams to score is 1.7, so a small bit of extra value there in 2.5. And yeah, you can bet over 2.75 at 1.99 if that does tickle your fancy. All right, over 2.5 is the selection anyway, gentlemen. Let's move on to Brentford versus Chelsea. AC, I'll start with you here first for this one, but let's take a look at the betting as we have it at matchbook.com. First of the West London derbies we're going to talk about today. Obviously, Adrian, you've got Mark's beloved QPR in a selection later on. Brentford, you can back at 6.8. Chelsea at 1.62. The draw available at 4.0. Brentford getting a goal start at 1.86. And over 2.5 is the total, and slightly shaded towards the under. I suppose, Adrian, you look at both of these teams. Brentford, look, obviously that big win at West Ham as well. That felt like a big win for them. Chelsea last couple of weeks, look, Mark's touched on it. They haven't been knocking the lights out in any way. So this is actually a hard game to call. In my eyes, this is a tricky one.
Yeah, it's not easy, that's for sure, because Brentford are nobody's. They're not going to lie down for anybody, are they? Or roll over. We saw that against Liverpool. They're turning into an awkward team. Really different from what they were in the Championship, where they were, front foot, really good football. Now they're awkward, but they're awkward in a good way. They've also got quality as well, particularly up front with Mbeumo and Tony. I think they've both settled into the top flight excellently, actually. So look, they'll look to get the ball forward to those two and let them, give Chelsea's back three an uncomfortable ride. The big question is how many opportunities will they have to do that? Because Chelsea have been, I think, imperious away from home. Yeah, they've wobbled the last couple of games. Obviously, City, they were humbled, weren't they? That was that was a reality check. City were far superior. Against Southampton, I think the XG for Chelsea was high. It was closer to 4 than it was to 3. So they created plenty. Werner is in good nick. Werner's getting into some great positions.
He was due, mate. He was
due. Look, he's always been getting into the good positions without finishing. I think he scored in 7 of his last 8 starts for club and country. Most of those have been for Germany. It's got to be said. But he's a player that's finding form. And look, if him and Lukaku click at the same time, Chelsea are suddenly in business, aren't they? It's finding a way for them to gel. I just look at Chelsea away in the Premier League this season. 3 really hard matches at Liverpool, Spurs and Arsenal. And they were excellent, outstanding in all of them. Obviously, the Liverpool game was sort of a strange one because they went down to 10 men. But yeah, I think that they have looked a proper team, and I think they'll go here with a professional attitude. They'll respect the bees, and in quite a close competitive game, I do expect Chelsea's quality to shine through. I think that in Lukaku, in Werner, potentially Mount coming back into form, although he wasn't very good for England, was he, the other night? Interesting to see who gets the nod to start here. I think Chelsea have got the quality to see off Brentford. But yeah, they can make it competitive. So my selection would be rinse and repeat, same old for Chelsea. It keeps on bringing home the bacon. This one, Chelsea in under 3.5. I see this as 1-0 Chelsea, 2-0 Chelsea. That's the kind of match I envisage. But look, Brentford keep proving us wrong. So look, if I am wrong here, kudos to Thomas Frank and his side, because if they can upset the odds against Chelsea, that I think we have to really start taking them seriously as a sort of top half side.
Who'll have some good stats in that Chelsea to win an under 3.5? The guy at the bottom of the screen there, he'll know. He'll have it all there because we have done it a few times. But you know what? It wins. The reason that's why we do it. Mark O'Haire, you don't have any major love for either of these teams, of course. But in terms of a bet, would you be agreeing with Adrian here on Chelsea and under 3.5?
Yeah, I think it definitely is a tricky game to call. That was the bet I marked out, but it's not a match I'm going to have a particularly strong view on. First things first, I just need to settle something because Sky Sports are hyping this game up as a major West London derby, and regionally,
here we go.
It's a derby. But the truth is, Chelsea, Fulham, and QPR are based in the London borough of Hammersmith and Fulham. Brentford are actually on the outskirts of the capital in the borough of Hounslow. Now, I'm obviously nitpicking, but there's a pecking order in West London. Brentford obviously see this as a massive game back in the Premier League, playing Chelsea, but it's not traditionally a rivalry. There is a pecking order in West London, and it kind of goes Brentford and Fulham dislike each other, but no one really hates Fulham because it's Fulham. They're a bit, I'm not going to say the word, but then
any ground that's got a neutral zone is
exactly.
No. Yeah.
Brentford hate QPR. QPR aren't bothered by Brentford. QPR hate Chelsea. And let's be honest, Chelsea aren't really asked about any of us these days. They've got bigger fish to fry. So that's how it goes. So Chelsea probably come into this game and go, what, we're playing a derby against Brentford? They probably have no idea about it. So now that's off my chest. Yeah, I mean, Brentford have made a decent start. It's no fluke, really, but they're in the top half. They're ninth on expected points. But more encouragingly, they've improved as the season's gone on. Over the last 4 games, they've played Liverpool, Brighton, Wolves and West Ham. And I've actually got them 5th in terms of expected points across those 4 games, which aren't the easiest of quartets either. So they've obviously bloodied Arsenal's nose already, held Liverpool, turned West Ham over at the London Stadium. They deserve to be taken seriously here. This is a banana skin for Chelsea immediately after an international break on the Saturday as well. I think Brentford have shown a real propensity to play not just decent counter-attacking football, but also the balance between being disciplined and working hard out of possession. There's a tenacity about their play which can disrupt the likes of Chelsea, which is makes this game quite fascinating, really. But yeah, I mean, I think Kante is supposed to be back for Chelsea, Lukaku and Rudiger as well, so they'll be strong. I'm expecting them to get a result here. Why wouldn't we? Really, they've won 8 of their Premier League games away from home from 12 under Thomas Tuchel, 6 clean sheets in that sample as well. They haven't been great since September, but I just think that defence is always strong enough to kind of keep them inside a game. So if I was going to back Brentford in some way, I'd need 1.25 goal start on the Asian handicap. You're not going to get that. So you have to be pro Chelsea in this sense and back the under 3.5 goals alongside the away win. Chelsea at 1.62. So it's a decent leap considering the correct score possibilities we get on our side as well.
Yeah, Chelsea to win under 3.5 is 2.26, just over 5-4 in fractional terms at Matchbook.com currently. Yeah, we've done them before, and we'll probably do them again as well. Let's talk about the next game we want to look at here. Newcastle against Tottenham. Just change up the screen there. Don't know if you guys have heard, there's been a takeover at Newcastle. I don't know, I kind of slipped under the radar a few times. Only been about 25 podcasts on it. But anyway, Newcastle in this game, 3.55. Still Steve Bruce is in charge at the time of recording. Tottenham Hotspur, 2.16. The draw available at 3.65. Newcastle getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap, 2.1, and 2.5 is the total, slightly shade towards the over. Mark, I won't ask you about the takeover bid by that public investment fund or whatever it's called, but I will ask you about this game in terms of a bet. You actually feel there's going to be potential for goals here on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. I expect Steve Bruce to be involved. It's his 1,000th game as a manager. I think they'd be really harsh to sack him beforehand. And I think that the words coming out of the takeover team are that they need a bit of time to sort of register what's going on behind the scenes there. So we're talking on Thursday morning. I'd be surprised if they made a move now before Sunday's game. It's going to be a lively, sold out St. James's Park. The buzz is back around the city. And yeah, I expect that to filter through to the playoffs, the players. And, we're not going to talk about the takeover in that sort of detail and the politics surrounding it. That's for other mediums. But I do think this kind of thing, can build us something unquantifiable, really, in terms of a price. I think that it's hard to kind of put a measurement on it, but you have to believe that that sort of atmosphere will filter its way down onto the pitch and potentially lead us to a bit more of a frenetic, lively, entertaining end-to-end game. Those Newcastle players should be absolutely buzzing for this, and certainly Steve Bruce's own philosophy has altered in the last sort of 6 months or so to be a much more front-foot team. And go back to late January, and Newcastle have scored in 19 of the last 24 Premier League games. That's not the Newcastle we've kind of known to expect over the last couple of seasons. Both teams have scored in 18 of those 24. That's 75%. And Overs has played out in 16 of their last 26 Premier League games. So this season, they're averaging the third highest XG figure per game in their matches, Newcastle. And just in the last 3 games alone, Newcastle have generated 4.5 non-penalty expected goals. So they have been playing front foot football for a while now. The team news is promising too. I think Lascelles, Wilson and Willock are back in the fold. Certainly Wilson and Willock will aid them in the final third. But defensively, they have been pretty ropey because they've been playing such sort of gung-ho style. They are conceding. They know the worst defence actually through the first 7 games. So, I know it's not really Nuno's style to sort of engage in this sort of game, but his kind of involvement may keep the goal expectancy a little bit lower. But I think the beauty of this is that unquantifiable aspect of the takeover and what it might do in terms of the atmosphere on Sunday. So, but you look at Spurs, they've got players like Son and Lucas Moura who've been real bright lights this season. Kane always tends to score against Newcastle. I know he's had a pretty rough patch at the moment. And we saw against Villa that Spurs can and will try and play a bit more proactively when the pressure is on. And I do think they played with a bit more of an attacking edge in that game. But Spurs themselves only kept 3 clean sheets in 17 away Premier League games now, going back to the end of last season too. So, yeah, I'm inclined to kind of keep Newcastle on side in some way. But I just think back goals, and then you can cheer on both teams if you want as a neutral. So I think it'll be a decent watch. And I think both teams to score at 1.7 is absolutely fair enough at the price.
Adrian, I won't ask you about the takeover. We'll ask you about Steve Bruce in terms of what he's done. And, if there wasn't this takeover, I don't really think he'd be under pressure. I mean, like what he has and what he's done the last couple of seasons. Like I know there's been 12 place finish and 13 place finish. And yes, the football's been dull, but I mean, look, he's kept them up. They had a few years up and down like yo-yos and stuff. And, if there wasn't a takeover, I don't think he'd be under pressure. But I think everyone is presuming, we're hearing this Ralph Rangnick talk in the last couple of days as well. And everyone's just presuming new takeover, new director of football, potentially a new manager.
Yeah, look, he's going to lose his job. I think that much is obvious. No one's hiding it, are they? I mean, I feel really sorry for him. He's supposed to be celebrating his 1,000th game in charge, and all the talk is will he get the bullet? I mean, the league table is not great in terms of where they are. Not picked up very many points so far. but they are better to watch. And yeah, he's not an awful manager by any stretch of the imagination, but the ambition now is different, isn't it? And they will immediately see that Bruce is more of a manager for a team that's looking to survive. They want someone that can deal with bigger players that will be chasing Europe, I guess, moving forward. So yeah, I think he's on borrowed time, unfortunately. But if he wants to stay in the game, he'll come again, no doubt. In terms of this, I think it'll be a shootout. I do. Mark's right, because Nuno doesn't like that. That's not Nuno's style, is it? But sometimes you can't help that. And Newcastle, with a frenzied atmosphere at St James's Park, I expect them to really go at Spurs with Sam Maximan, with Callum Wilson, who's returning from injury, I hope, and Willock as well. They'll go for it. Sam Maximan's been brilliant this season. Probably would make my team of the season so far. Certainly on entertainment value. And Spurs at the back have been ropey, let's be honest. They don't look sure-footed at all. But where are Spurs at their best? They're on the break, aren't they? So if Newcastle do come at them, then Spurs are going to fly right back at the other end of the pitch via Son, who's I think has been outstanding. I really do. So yeah, the last time, I think, was it the last home game, Newcastle Leeds? I remember watching it. It was just like, you attack, we attack, you attack, we attack. It was brilliant. I think we had almost 40 attempts. Don't think we'll get quite that many this time, but I kind of envisage a good game. So yeah, look, I've gone for a similar line. It's a pick 'em really. I've gone for over 2.5. You get a slightly bigger price on that. I think 1.83 last time I looked. But both teams to score is probably the safer pick. Covering off the 1-1 draw. But yeah, it's a pick 'em. In terms of the overs, I think 4 out of 7 this season for both teams have gone over. And Spurs, I think, on their last 4 visits to St James's, have scored at least 2 goals. So it's a ground where they tend to go and attack and score. So yeah, I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah, there's a small bit of a drift in that price. The BTTS, yes, is 1.72. I know we were looking at it earlier, was 1.7. Again, there was a small bit of margin there. So 1.72 we'll get there. That doesn't seem bad. But again, probably wouldn't turn anyone off over 2.5 goals here in what is probably going to be a lively enough affair. All right, let's move on from that game. We're going to talk about Monday Night Football as Mr. Vieira returns to North London. Adrian Clarke, 1.67. You can back the Gunners, and Vieira's Crystal Palace is 6.2. The draw available at 3.9. Crystal Palace getting 3/4 a goal start on the Asian handicap. That'll appear on site at matchbook.com. Plus 0.5. Half your bet is on that, and half your bet is on 1.0 at 2.1. 2.5 is the total, slightly shaded towards the under. Adrian Clarke, you think Palace could do okay here?
Yeah, I think they're getting better. I really do. I think the performance levels are pretty good, actually. They've had a tough start on paper. Look at the fixtures that Crystal Palace have had. They've played no one below them in the table, so no one in the bottom 6, and they don't find themselves in the bottom 6, which I think is quite admirable, really, considering there's been a huge style change. Patrick has come in and changed it completely. They're playing out from the back now. I did a piece actually on Palace this week, and no one's playing out from the pack. With those short goal kicks where the goalkeeper just plays it to a teammate inside the box. No one does that more often than Palace. They never did it before. No. So it's a huge, huge change. We've obviously got more goal threats now. It was either Zaha or Benteke before, wasn't it? They're still there, but they've now got Odsonne Edouard. They've got Conor Gallagher. They've got Michael Elise, who's always capable of scoring goals with that left foot of his. So for me, yeah, Palace are dangerous. I think they will be dangerous to a lot of teams. Obviously, they battered Spurs. They were definitely the better team against Leicester. They were unlucky to find themselves 2 down, that's for sure, in that game. And I looked at all the sort of metrics and stats, and that you can sort of throw to get this opinion. And you look at it, and Crystal Palace are at least matching Arsenal in almost every department. I think in terms of their expected goals against, certainly in open play, they're a lot better than Arsenal. So yeah, I think this could be a more even game than a lot of people are anticipating. Arsenal at home to Palace, you think home win there, but I just think Arsenal, they were brilliant against Spurs. You can't take that away from them. Outstanding. But the only other 2 games they've won have been sort of grinds against, 2 of the bottom teams, Norwich and Burnley. Against Brighton, it was definitely a reality check. They didn't control the game. The Seagulls were clearly the stronger team that dictated it. Arsenal were kind of fortunate to get a point. So I can't support them at the odds that they are in this game, even though, I hope they win and there's every chance that they might win being at home. But I don't think there's enough evidence to say that you should be getting on Arsenal's side here. I really don't. And Palace have got a good recent record actually against Arsenal. So for me, looking at Palace on the handicap is potentially the best value here. So because look, Arsenal haven't scored very many goals. I think they've only scored 4, haven't they? The whole season. Yep. All the teams in the top 7 that they've played, I think 4 games against the top 7, they didn't win any of the games and didn't score in any of the games. So yeah, I'd like to see a bit more from Arsenal moving forwards before I can say that they're a sure thing in a match like this. So yeah, Palace +1, I think is a good pick here. It's a backable price. You can tell me what it is, Sully, but
1.8.
Yeah, 1.8. I think that's a decent price for Palace, who I think can potentially draw the game, and of course if they lose by 1, then you get your money back. And Arsenal not scoring a bundle of goals. If they do win, I think they're more likely to win by 1 than any other scoreline. So yeah, that's the way I go.
Mark O'Haire, in agreement on this one?
I am, yeah. Originally, when Adrian picked this game, I thought, oh god, this is a tricky one. But sort of did my numbers check and obviously created my own sort of tissue and looked at the market and was surprised that the Asian handicap was set at 1. And I'm a firm believer that if Arsenal were called something else coming into this game, projecting the same sort of figures, they would not be as short as or below 1.7 to win the match. And if we're being a sort of a hard taskmaster about things, we could say that Arsenal have only really performed to expectations once so far this season, and that was the Derby win. They weren't great against Brighton after that, and the 2 1-0 wins against sort of lesser opponents before the Derby win were kind of hard work, really. So yeah, I mean, they were the same price or just a bit bigger actually last year when playing Palace. They drew 0-0. I think they've only actually won 1 of the last 6 head-to-heads. Their record at the Emirates against Palace isn't strong either. But you look at the price in isolation over the last 12 months. At the Emirates in the Premier League, Arsenal have only been shorter at home to Newcastle, Norwich and West Brom. So, yeah, I mean, I can't really get behind that price at all. And I think there are some promising signs surrounding Palace at the moment. In terms of points, they're pretty much bang in line with where the market probably expected them to be at this stage. But the underlying metrics are a bit more promising. They've probably not had the rub of the green so far this season. They've conceded 11 goals, 5 of which have come from outside the area, which is obviously pretty unusual. So, yeah, they've had tough away trips as well, Chelsea, Liverpool, West Ham. And I think they're more than capable of kind of turning up and causing Arsenal a couple of problems and playing above themselves, particularly that line, the Asian handicap line of +1. I always like that line as an underdog because you're going into the game. If the game ends 0-0, your quid's in, really. You need the home team to come out and score twice at least without reply. So, yeah, it's not one I have a huge view on, but certainly I had the line more about three-quarter ball line. So around the same price. So happy to take Palace +1. Mike Dean is the referee as well, so could be quite good fun for neutrals.
Saying nothing. Palace +1 at 1.8 currently at Matchbook.com. So let's just quick recap of those bets before we get to the latter stage of the show. We're taking over 2.5 in Leicester versus Manchester United at 1.8. Chelsea to win at under 3.5. Where have you heard that one before? 2.26. Both teams to score, Newcastle and Spurs at 1.72, and the aforementioned Crystal Palace +1 at 1.8. You can check out full recaps of those bets about 2 or 3 hours after recording. So it'll be up Thursday afternoon at insights.matchbook.com. That applies for our other podcasts when NFL and horse racing this week in particular. Adrian Clarke, Championship, Reading 2.22 to beat Barnsley. The last couple of weeks, you had Reading in a couple of those goals bets, and there was the goals left, right, and centre. But the last 3 games, they've tightened the things up in a major way. And Barnsley, 1 win in 11, so I don't think there'll be too many people backing them.
It's a great price. It's a really, really good price, I think, on Reading. Just look at the form table. Reading are joint second in the form table across the last 6 games, 13 points. I think 4 wins from 5. flying, really, even though they've got quite bad injury problems. They've found a groove of Reading. Barnsley are rock bottom of that form table, 2 points from the last 6 games. I think Mark O'Haire, it's sort of Barnsley light, really. He's trying to do something similar to what we saw under Valerian Ismail, but it's just not got as much punch, and they're not affecting opponents in the same way, and they're not really a goal threat. Very low scoring. I think they failed to score in 5 of their 11 games since he took over, and yeah, they've only scored more than one once. I think that was a QPR, which was a bit of a shock result. So for me, this is definitely a home win in my opinion. Reading are performing much better than Barnsley, and yeah, I think they're at a backable price. So yeah, I'm going all in on the Royals here.
2.22. Make Mark O'Haire smile here. You're back in QPR +1 at 1.85. Mark, just White City and Shepherds, that's West London, yeah? Just so we can clarify that. I actually was there before, but I'm just kind of trying to clarify this. Is this a West London derby or not?
Yeah.
Or it is, okay.
Yeah. You're allowed. Yeah.
Adrian Clarke.
This is close. Yeah, these aren't far apart at all.
No, it's only like 2 points separating them, isn't there?
Well, yeah, no, I meant in distance, but yeah.
Okay.
They're genuine neighbours. Look, QPR have a bad record, so Mark will be sceptical, I'm sure, here, but they don't have a good record against Fulham in recent times. But I think this is a different QPR. I just think they're playing at a higher level this season under Mark Warburton. Quick caveat is that the Hoops weren't defending very well before the international break. They definitely lost an edge at the back, and they were more vulnerable, I think, than they had been previously. I'm confident that Warburton would have worked on that over the break. You know, it's a big game for him to have 2 weeks build up to get a game plan in place, and I think that he can sort that, and he'll need to, because Fulham are a very good attacking side. You know, scored in 10 of their 11
Fulham.
games.
Did we see that? I know Coventry may go, but did we see that 4-1 loss coming?
Oh, no one saw that coming.
Oh.
No one saw. I mean, that was an incredible result, wasn't it, from Coventry? But it does show that you can't fully trust Fulham at the moment under Mark O'Sullivan. They've got so much talent, but I mean, Mark O'Sullivan for me has never been the type of manager that sets his team up to be hard to beat. He's not a good organizer of defences. I think he plays good, fast attacking football.
Yeah.
And they press well, but no. The stats. 2 clean sheets. Fulham, they're supposed to be winning this league by a landslide. They've kept 2 clean sheets in 11, and QPR have scored in every game. Obviously, that means they've scored in every away game as well. So going on the road and scoring is not a problem. Scored multiple goals on numerous occasions as well away from Loftus Road, QPR. So no, I think they can be competitive here, QPR. The only games they've lost were 2-1ers against Bournemouth, West Brom, and there was one other. Mark might be able to tell me. I can't remember what it was, but they were tight games. I think it was Bristol City that they lost to a last-minute winner. They've been in all of the games that they've lost. So for me, a +1 handicap in a local derby like this, when they're always capable of scoring goals against a Fulham team that are good, yes, but also vulnerable, I think they can make this really competitive. So yeah, I don't see Fulham steamrolling them. So yeah, QPR +1 is my selection here. Yeah. Good price, 1.85. I think in a local derby, you know, often they close run things, aren't they? So let's see. Fulham are capable of spanking anybody. We know that. But it can also go the other way with them. And QPR are the type of side that could profit. Ilias Chair, you know, having an outstanding season. Options up front now. Lyndon Dykes, Charlie Austin, Andre Gray as well. Willock. They've got goals in them, QPR. So yeah, I think it's been a good game. And QPR will give Fulham a run for their money.
Thumbs up from you, Mark?
Hope so, yeah. I think Fulham have got a couple of players who've been away in Central America on international duty. Ream, Robinson, Reed as well. So I'm not sure about their availability. But yeah, for Rangers, Adrian's already touched on it. Individually, I've got no issues with our defence at the moment, but collectively they seem to be making these really, really sloppy errors at the moment, which is the only concern really, because going forward it's been fantastic to watch, and there's a massive buzz around the club again, which is great to see. You can barely get a ticket for away games these days because they're selling out so quickly. So, that always tells you things are going pretty well. So, I'm hopeful, but always a bit wary of Fulham away. It's the game where Adel Taarabt was subbed at half-time and got the bus home a few years back. So, we've got some poor memories at Craven Cottage.
All right, let's move on. Europe. And Mark, this was one that stuck out to me this morning. Obviously, look, we're only 7 games into the new Bundesliga season, but Freiburg have they're unbeaten, 4 wins, just 3 draws. And obviously, look, Christian Streich has got a tune out of them, but that move from the Dreimstam Stadion, that was a tough place to go. I mean, even Bayern Munich, like their records, like 11 wins at 21. Dortmund have only won the last 10. Mönchengladbach have a poor record. That was a hard place to go, but I know it's a bit narrative-y, but a move to a new stadium can kind of go one way or can kind of go the other way. But against Leipzig, this Leipzig team this year, they've just been poor, haven't they?
Sully, you've killed pretty much all my bullet points.
Sorry.
First of all, the quiz question was the only unbeaten team left in the Bundesliga. I mean, it's pretty obvious now. We've talked about the game. It's Freiburg against Leipzig. But it's not Bayern, it's not Dortmund or Leipzig. It's Freiburg. And plucky little Freiburg. So, they're playing their first game in the brand new stadium, the Europa Park, against Leipzig this weekend. They are big underdogs, but this is a team who's thrived as big underdogs in the Black Forest, in their old stadium at least. And there's definitely a concern, and you've got to chip a little bit of home advantage for the fact that this is their first game in new surroundings. You can almost say it's a neutral stadium here, but they've just got that history of upsetting the odds against the bigger fish. I looked at their record in the last 5 seasons at home in the Bundesliga against top 6 finishers. 11 wins, 10 draws, 10 defeats. Now, on the surface, that might not sound particularly strong, but when you think about it, a 33% loss rate against the top 6, and you're Freiburg, that's pretty quite incredible, really. A small budgeted team, unheralded, just superbly coached by Streich, fantastic youth academy. Just one of those mid-ranking Bundesliga teams who just knows what they're doing, is well capable of bloodying a nose. It's really straightforward playing Freiburg, whether it's home or away. So, the cash has come for Freiburg at least. The big handicap lines have been chipped in. So we're only really getting 3/4 goal start now coming into this match, which, if they lose the game by 1 goal, we only lose half of our stake. But Freiburg have lost by 2 goals or more in just 7 of those 31 home games against the top 6. They've already turned over Dortmund at home in the old stadium. Leipzig have had a tough start. They have had a pretty punishing schedule, must be said, and they haven't had the rub of the green in some of those matches. Before the international break, they smashed Hertha and Bielefeld, but those 2 teams are very poor. They'll be down towards the bottom 6. Freiburg are a much different kettle of fish, and if you look at the first 7 match days, these 2 teams are pretty much neck and neck across all the major metrics. To me, which suggests that Freiburg are being slightly underrated here. I think Leipzig could be without Orban and Olmo, 2 of their key players. Both of them are pretty much doubts, and Freiburg, if you look at the squad, very few of them will have been away on international duty. No major injury concerns either. So very little disruption and plenty of time on the training paddock to prepare for this. So, I think the ingredients are there for a potential upset. Fancy Freiburg to get at least a point in that game.
Yeah, I think you touched on it there in terms of the talent that Leipzig could bring in. And if you're looking at 11s on the paper, you're thinking, all right, I'm back in Leipzig, but they're not playing the exact, to a similar style with Marsch there this season. So I wonder how long he'll be there, Mark O'Haire. Serie A, I'll keep quiet for this bit, but Spalletti against Inzaghi, 2 attacking mind coaches, so that would lead to goals-filled game.
Yeah, I think you've got to be with goals in this game. Inzaghi going back to his old club, did great work with Lazio, but he's kind of changed Inter up this season, obviously defending champions, but he's released the shackles from the Antonio Conte era. They're the top scorers through 7 rounds, still unbeaten as well. They scored at least twice in every game. I think they should be licking their lips going into this game against Lazio, who have been stuttering a little bit. The derby win against Roma was probably the real highlight of what's been quite a tricky couple of weeks. It's their only win in 5 since September's international break. And defensively, they've been very gettable, I guess you could say. I think the one clean sheet, yet to keep a clean sheet actually under Sarri, but they've conceded twice or more in 4 of 7 games, signed off for the break with a 3-0 defeat at Bologna, which was a little bit harsh compared to the pattern of play in that game. But going forward, they've got obviously plenty of players who can cause problems. Immobile is a doubt, but I expect him to play. And Inter have kept just the 1 clean sheet themselves so far this season. For Lazio as well, Acerbi is suspended, which is basically their key defender. Without him, they tend to struggle defensively. So, expecting goals in this game. Inter's XG per game, not home and away. For and against comes in at 3.11. Lazio's comes in at 3.03 per game. That's the first and second in the league. If you look at their goals per game, Inter 4.29, Lazio 3.86. Serie A's average as a whole 3.2. 67% of games going over 2.5 goals. 12 of the 14 games involving these two teams have gone overs, 11 of which have seen both teams scoring as well. It all racks up really statistically to suggest that overs is being slightly underrated again here. So over 2.75 goals is the bet.
1.85. I got my names mixed up to start. I said Spalletti. Of course, if Spalletti's managing an Inter ever, I will eat Lazio. I will eat my hat for sure. I don't think that's ever going to happen, given his connections with Roma. I get them mixed up now, Mark. When Sarri and then Spalletti went to Napoli, it can be messy sometimes. Adrian Clarke, weekend best bets. Where is it, mate? Have we covered it already?
We have covered it. I did contemplate Brighton, so have a look at Brighton at Norwich. They're a decent price to go and win at Carrow Road. I was massively impressed with Brighton against Arsenal. I just thought they looked a proper team. Yeah. So that's a good one to keep on your radar. From today's selections, my pick would be Leicester against United over 2.5 goals. Yeah, this Leicester centre back pairing is shocking, and I think United will make hay. But I also feel that Vardy and Iheanacho can hurt Manchester United at the other end. So yeah, over 2.5 goals, please.
At 1.8, Mark, where are your best bet?
I think this is a first, guys. 2 best bets coming from the Premier League. So I was very tempted with the goals in Lazio Inter, but I'm going to take both teams to score at Newcastle against Spurs. I just think it's going to be a pretty frenzied atmosphere, and I think the way Newcastle have been playing so far this season, backed by that support, leads itself towards a goal-heavy game.
Good stuff, yeah. A lot of decent selections there. Like I said, if you want a full recap of those, we fired through a lot of games there. Check out insights.matchbook.com and check out the Team Matchbook social channels across the weekend. My thanks to Adrian. My thanks to Mark. Good to be back from international break, guys. Only another 4 weeks till the next one. So, yeah, we'll enjoy this while we can. Best of luck with your bets this weekend, and we will be back again next Thursday morning. Bye for now.